Welcome to this week's edition of the Deck Talk Podcast, and we have one heck of a show lined up for everybody tonight. But, first things first, we have to talk about the sponsor for tonight's episode. Our sponsor is Joe Burns Rods. Custom rods built with one goal in mind: to build you the best rod that you have ever owned. When you buy a Joe Burns custom rod, they are built for you to match the way you fish, to fit your fishing style. Whether you're in the market for a flip and stick, a spinning rod, bait caster, crank and stick, or even crappie rods, Joe Burns has you covered. From their unmatched power to the backbone to the tip action and sensitivity, with a guide system to improve your accuracy, giving you longer distance on every cast. But here's the kicker: the best part of buying a Joe Burns rod, it will be built for you to suit your fishing style, your grip, your forearm length. They are here to work with you as fishermen to build you the ultimate fishing rod, unmatched and unwavered by any other rods that you have ever yanked back on. Join the Joe Burns Rods family by calling for more information at 423-618-9499. Let's get some Joe Burns rods on your deck. And make sure to ask about their patented cork graphite handle. That's right, guys. You got to check out Joe Burns Custom Rods. But our show tonight, we have one heck of a show. Joining us he has been a good buddy of mine since the early 2000s. Actually, before he was the host of his own television show. But anyway, guys, joining us tonight is the host of A Fishing Story, one of the most popular television fishing shows on television today. Mr. Ronnie Green's joining the show. So we hope everybody has a great time watching tonight's episode. And remember, live the passion. And here we go, Deck Talk Podcast with our guest, Ronnie Green.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk Podcast. And we've got one of the coolest cats that I've ever met on the podcast here today, and man, I'm stoked to have him on. He comes from some pretty hefty stock, and I think we're going to go into that, and you'll understand what I mean when I say that. So, but if you don't know, guys, man, we got Mr. Ronnie Green. So, yeah. Norman, take it away and let them.
That's right, man. You know what? We're excited about this, Mr. Ronnie. This is actually Ronnie's second time coming on the show, man. And
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you good. How about? Can you hear us all right, Ronnie?
Well, hey, man, I'm delighted to be here, Colin. It's just been an absolute pleasure, man. Seeing you guys again. Norman, I've known for many years, and you're like family as well. Getting to know you guys. You guys are always a good time, man. Love seeing you at the Classic. Love seeing you guys doing what you're doing, having so many incredible guests on your podcast, and I'm thrilled and honored to be here.
Appreciate it, Ronnie.
Oh man, and again, I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. I mean, even if it's on the podcast platforms or even just when we're out and about at different events, and because I enjoy picking people's brains because there's so much you can learn from different people, their experience with how they approach life in general. There's always somehow you can take a little bit from what other people has experienced and put it towards your life to be able to achieve that goal that you're always looking forward to, and that's one reason why I like talking to you a lot, because I mean, you have set some goals and stuff in front of that you have had, and with your TV show, man, I enjoy watching. I watch it. At least it comes on. It actually on my TV. It comes on like 3 times a week, and so I at least catch it once a week. So but I enjoy watching, and I enjoy seeing the different places and stuff that you get to go. And but with us talking about your TV show, what did it feel like when you got notified that you was an Emmy Award nominee, and then let alone to just go up there and just win the thing. And so, how did that feel, and how was the emotions when you got that, and then when you actually won it?
Oh, it was absolutely amazing and life changing, and it was. I always set the expectation real low. So my wife loves red carpets and like to dress up and do, look all pretty and all that good stuff. I'll put on a t-shirt if I could and go, but she's like, you got to get all dressed up. So I decided to get all dressed up and do my thing, but I set the expectation in the hotel. I said, "Hey, honey, I just want to give you a heads up. We're just happy to be here." That's what I told her, and I feel so blessed that we at least got nominated. So at least we made it this far, and just gonna
Right.
set the expectation appropriately. She's like, "Well, no, I don't want to stop here. I think we got a chance to win." And she's so positive and so optimistic. She's the reason I started the show in the first place. So there it is again, having the right mate in your life that really knows how to push you and motivate you. Because a lot of times spouses will give you a lot of good feedback because they're your spouse and they're your biggest cheerleader.
Right.
But she really is all about impeccable data, imperial, trying to make sure that she has appropriate information, but she had none in her hand tangibly to say that we're going to win. So I was like, well, honey, we don't know. And I said, there's a lot of people here and there's a lot of great shows and this, that, and other. And then all of a sudden when they call, I will tell you a story. I took my jacket off after dinner. I took my jacket off and put it on my wife's, uh, on her shoulders kind of thing. And because she was a little chilly. And she's like, "You want your jacket back? Because they're getting ready to go through the nominees." I was like, "No, I don't think so. I'm just gonna I was even loosening my tie, all bow tie, and all
Getting
that.
comfortable.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, I have several people it's 10 people at the table, so all eyes are on me. And sounds like a rap music song. All eyes on me. And at the end of the day, they called us, and I was like, "Oh my God, did I hear right?" She's like, "Get up, Ronald." She's like, "Here, take your jacket." And so I started to get dressed, trying to do this and that and the other. And on the way, walking to the stage, and all the guys, my team, we were all like in shock. And I was like, "I can't believe this." I was like, "Come along, come on, babe." So they typically don't want spouses to go up there, but I said, "Let's go, babe. Just go. Why not?" And so we got up there, and then there was a 15 to 20-second warning, let you know that you're only supposed to talk for 20 seconds. Well, after reviewing and looking at the thing when I did my acceptance speech, no, nothing scripted because I didn't write nothing down because I quite honestly didn't expect to win. Mine was 45 seconds, and the music didn't stop me. Usually the music will come on and like shut you off, and you're cut off, and the mic will cut off. But it kept going, so I kept talking. And then when I finally heard the music, I just let it go and shut it down. But we were just so thrilled, man. The
That's awesome.
experience
That is
within
awesome.
itself, seeing some great content makers and videographers and producers and this and that and the other. We were just thrilled, to
Right.
start where we started and to see how it ended up. We were just amazed at how that came.
That's insane. That
You
is
Right.
know.
Yeah. And I was so stoked for you, and I was over here in Chattanooga. You probably heard me down there where you're at, hollering for you, rooting, and but I we I mean it was amazing to see
yeah.
that you got it, and because I know, and just like what you said, like you and Norman's known each other for a long time, and I've known you what, probably 3-4 years,
Yeah.
and but just in the time frame that I've known you, I know that you are a driven man, and your family is a driven, and I want to kind of pick your brains on that a little bit, and kind of because I think there's a lot of information that people can take from that, because there's people that set goals, like at New Year's, they say, all right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do this. I got goals for this next year to go. Maybe it's go work out more or do whatever. And then they, I don't know if people know, but like January 9th is called Quitter's Day because everybody that set goals for New Year's, that's when they normally will quit, is January 9th. But when your family, I mean, because not just in fishing, you've been an All American track star, and what if I remember correctly, you qualified for to run in the Olympics.
Olympic trial.
Right, and then your brother played NFL football, if I remember correctly, for the Cowboys. Am I correct?
No, for the Buccaneers. For the
Buccaneers. Buccaneers. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine.
But then, like, here within, what is it, the past 6-7 months, maybe, your daughter Lauren, I mean, I just see a post that you post on Facebook saying that, hey, she's now with the Utah Jazz doing the interviews and stuff, and it's kind of funny to see her out there because she's so petite, and them guys just kind of just dwarf her. But so what is it like when y'all set a goal? What is your mindset like? Because I would like for somebody that listens to this podcast to be able to say, all right, well, Ronnie Green is a successful man. He sets the goals and he achieves his goals. So what is it when y'all are setting goals that keeps y'all to the wheels driving to get to your goal?
I think it's seeing it, believing it, and then you achieve it. And what I mean by that, we don't set goals in January. I learned from my father, my dad. He ran a tight household. Prior to the Marines, there was the house that I grew up in called the Ralph Green School of Discipline, and I'm telling you, he makes the Marine Corps look really easy. He don't believe nobody should sleep past 7 a.m. So we're all early risers. If we're not up by 6, something's wrong. The other thing is you set goals. And what I mean by the see it, believe it, and achieve it is we set goals in the fourth quarter. And what you do is instead of starting in January, you start in the fall, fourth quarter. Usually October at least. Start writing it down, what you want to accomplish. Then you start breaking it down to the lowest common denominator, probably let's say November, and then you get into the very detailed every day. When I wake up, these are the things that I need to do. So now there's the execution. So there's the see it, which is the vision. And without a vision, people just cannot put together a plan. That's what a business plan is. And you got to believe it by putting it in all in a achievable goals, smart goals, by not just going out there throwing something together that you know is just like, hey, I'm going to the moon next year. Probably not realistic. Unless there was some other traction in another space in the aerospace and industry. And then the last thing is the achievement. The execution is the hardest thing for everybody because everybody has a great idea. Everybody has a great concept. Everybody has, and my dad taught us that there's going to be a lot of great athletes that are much better than you, but the difference is, are you the total package? What I mean by that, can you talk outside of just being an athlete? Can you have a communication skill sets? And then do you have self-discipline off the court or off the field than you do trying to do just as much as what you use to achieve in the sport. So all those things put together, January comes around, you already have a plan, a written plan that you can coach yourself on. You don't need nobody to tell you what to do because you have it written down and you know exactly what your goals are. And if anybody is going to hold you accountable, it's going to be yourself. I've never heard somebody arguing with themselves saying, I'm going to dispute my own data, saying, hey, you know what? I don't like what I said earlier, so I'm going to argue with myself. I've never heard nobody argue with themselves. So it's powerful when you can actually put it down so nobody can be held responsible except you. So things happen, setbacks happens in life, but it's what you do when things happen. It is what it is. My dad always said as well, things just going to happen, and you just got to figure it out. And whatever that means, you got to look at your skill sets and know what's realistic and how you can still achieve those goals. And those goals may not be as prominent as someone else's, but know your skill sets. And if you stay connected to your skill sets, I feel like I have the gift of gab. The gift of gab was proven in my corporate career. First of all, growing up, my dad used to put us on the spot in church and have us, hey, Ronnie, come up here. You're going to talk. Oh, my goodness. A young little kid getting up there just talking, 8, 10 years old, on the spot in front of thousands of people with a microphone. Wow, now what? So I used to do the same thing with my kids. And funny, we're having this call today. I just dropped my son off, my oldest son, who is an incredible leader. He's the CEO of a company called Gridwise, doing extremely, extremely well. He lives in Barcelona, has a house in Pittsburgh and Bulgaria. And he has done this, taken the same menu, everything that I've taught him, and I got that from my father. And every single generation, you actually build on it, the 2.0 version. And he's done that extremely well. The company will probably sell within the next few years. And I feel like he's set for life. And so I'm proud of all my kids. I have my other son, Joshua, who is an analytical person. He's brilliant as well. You don't hear much about him because he doesn't like social media, so he doesn't get on there at all. I don't even know if he has a page, but he's my middle child. Every sense of the word. He's so brilliant, he's so talented, so athletic, the whole 9 yards. And I'm just proud of him. And before I look up, all my kids have gone to college, got a college degree. Lauren has the most because they're all competitive. Well, I have a master's, Ryan. You don't have a master's. So everything is just a competition with all my kids, and I didn't realize I set that precedent. But quite honestly, me and my brothers and sisters are the exact same way.
Exact same way.
Yeah.
But it's good to have that that camaraderie and that competition within, to have, even if it's just you and another person, that you can have that competition that's a friendly competition, because then you know that whatever they do, they're pushing you to be able to go up like this, and then you're going to push them to go up, and it's just going to keep on. And I wanted to ask that because I think, again, like what I was saying, that so many people, they, like what you were saying, they make a plan, and they have probably a plan that could probably knock it out of the park. And but and like with me, like if I have something, when I put the pen to paper with it, that's with me actually kind of getting that ball rolling and starting to see the vision of what I'm wanting to do. Um, but to have somebody like yourself to be able, that, I mean, it's not that it's just yourself. I mean, your whole family has done. I mean, has just been as a successful family, and so to be able to have you on and kind of, even though it's not in the fishing realm, but to have somebody to give that advice, that they come here to listen to a fishing, to hear something about fishing, how to catch the next best thing or whatever, and then they hear that, and then they're like, well, my goals are achievable. I can just, as long as I can kind of set up miniature goals to be able to where I know it's just mile markers to where the big picture is going to happen. I think that is very useful information for everybody. And so thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I love to, to win. I'm competitive in my older age, so to speak, in my 50s. I was told, by the way, by my son and daughter, And my son, oh, Dad, I met this guy who's old like you. So I've been using that term. Like, so I was like, well, what is old, son? Well, your age, Dad. Kind of old. I was like, whatever. So, but
Right.
it's so important, and in efficient sense, it doesn't change. One of the things these younger folks are doing, especially with the how competitive it is in the bass fishing industry, is you still got to go out and achieve. And a lot of fishermen, I've been around bass fishermen, they'll go out and they're like, I'm going to fish X tournaments next year. No plan, just I need this many sponsors so I can go and pay the entry fees to fish all these tournaments.
Right.
That's just a tidbit of what needs to happen strategy wise. Okay, so when you fish them, what do you need to do at each individual lake every single time you go fishing? And what kind of baits you need to have? I mean, you start breaking it down to the micro level so that you understand what you need to do, even when you turn the ignition. It really makes a difference. How many casts do I need to have? What's my ratio of cast versus catch? So
Right.
I at least
And
make
that could change from lake to lake too.
it can. And so you might even have some data, especially if you've been practicing. It's like, seems like since I've been practicing, every 119 casts, I get a fish. So if
Right.
that's the case, if I make 1,000 casts, you start doing the data. Data is so powerful nowadays if you do the data. And with the likes of this AI thing out there, you don't have to do as much work as what we used to do. We used to have to do the subject on everything. We didn't even have
Right.
calculators. I mean, in our classrooms, they have them at their disposal on their phones. So there's
Right.
so much information out there. It's a matter of what you want to do to be successful. And
Right.
every now the roles have reversed. I learned more from my kids than I learned from books or any place else. My son was here, and I was just here almost like a college student getting my master's again. He was giving me some advanced information on how to be more productive. He's all about productivity because he's like, Dad, I know how you were growing up because you ran a tight house, a military house. I was like, really? I have this selective memory, by the way. I was like, I don't remember that. But he remembers those things. So he understands that these are the things that need to happen. And here's how you can further do it, even in your latter years. How
Right.
much you use something. So I love the fact that everything that I put into him, he is now putting into me, him and my daughter and my sons. And that's a beautiful thing. That's the way it's supposed to work. Because sometimes when we get above a certain age, over 40, we want to slow down in our intake of information and our style of doing things. But we actually got to be even more diligent to stay up to date with what's going on. One of the things that we know that is going on in the fishing industry right now is forward facing sonar. A lot of folks are fighting it, so it's like, let's take it away. Let's just fight it. Take it away because these guys don't need to be using it. I think it's cheating. I think it's, yeah, well, they could have said that about electronics years ago for us.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, is you've got to change or you got to become your next 2.0 or the next version. If
Yeah.
we had the
Right.
same phones for the last 10 years, can you imagine what the updates would look like? A lot of them wouldn't work. And hence, that's the reason why we get new phones. Why do we
Yeah.
buy new phones? Because the updates only reach a certain pinnacle. They stop at a certain level. You can't have a iPhone 10. I'm an iPhone person, an iPhone 10, and you're trying to put updates from the 16. It just won't happen. AI
Right.
features and all these other features just won't happen. So they're forcing you to make a move. Well, that's the way life is. You have to adapt. Animals do it every single day. They go out
Right.
there. You've seen animals learn how to. I bet you the crocodile here in the States or in Florida, the way we see it, probably had to adapt so many different times because not because of the weather so much, but because of everything being built around it, habitat
Yeah.
taken away. So what does the
Right.
animal need to do? I've got to find new food sources to survive. I've got to find new places to bed. I got to find new places to nest. And why can't we do the same?
Yeah.
Right. And you're completely right. I mean, even like when to relate it to fish, I mean, look at when like we had here this past week, it was like low 20s. We actually one night got in, I think it was like 17 degrees here in Chattanooga. And so and then fish and then like cause like here by Friday we are it's gonna hit in the mid 50s. And so then we're gonna have another cold front come through. But them fish are constantly moving up and they're having to adapt and they're moving back and it's you're completely right with having to um,
And
adapt to with
yeah,
whatever's going on to
yeah,
because uh, these guys like and you probably remember it, Ronnie, like when the side stand came out
Oh, yeah.
and everybody was saying the same thing about what they're saying about the forward facing sonar. That's cheating. And now side scan comes on every unit that you
yeah,
buy. It is, I mean, it's just
yeah,
like that's just the basic properties of a unit now. You're
yeah,
going to get down imaging, you're going to get the side imaging, and now I guarantee you within the next 10 years, it's going to have the forward facing sonar is going to be the exact same way. And I believe with the forward facing sonar, that technology is unbelievable. I have it on my boat. I've been able to learn so much. Not that I'm catching more fish. I'm not, and I may have caught 1 or 2% more, maybe a little more. But I mean, but it's not much more that I'm actually catching. But I'm learning so much of how a bass moves
yeah,
and why a bass is moving around. And I tell this story all the time to guys that talk to me about forward facing sonar. Like we were fishing. I don't know if you've ever fished Chickamauga, but I was
Oh,
fishing
yeah.
a point uh, off of Chickamauga or on Chickamauga, right outside of Chester Frost.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and if you haven't ever been, Chester Frost comes in. It's got the funnel for the uh, where how the ledge comes down and the fish just travels right through the channel of it. And so, but there's a point that comes out. Then it goes from like I think it's summertime. It's probably like 12 to 14 feet, but then it actually hits the main river channel and it will drop down to 35, 40 foot. And, but I was realizing like the bass, like I was catching bass up on the ledge, but I was able to follow these bass for a couple of days and watch. And all they were doing, Ronnie, was just circling. They were going out into the main river channel, circling back. But by the time they got back over the ledge, was
Mm-hmm.
when they were. That was when that bite window was. And it's not like they were just sitting there, but they were circling around, making a big circle. And by the time they got back, they were.
yeah,
That's when they were hitting. I could throw at them all the way around the circle, but they were not hitting until they hit that ledge.
yeah,
And once they
Wow.
hit it, it was game's on.
It just is so many different variables and so many
Right,
things that can change. Um, but at the end of the day, we have to adapt. I mean, and
right,
for those of us who are Christians, the Bible speaks of, people perish for the lack of knowledge. And I feel like forward facing sonar is just a multiplier of knowledge. You may not use it, but at least you have some knowledge, you
right,
know? And my belief is having that knowledge like side scan, I don't use it as much anymore. because I'm out there with these young cats, these young kids, and they're so impressed. They're like, Mr. Group, that is crazy. You got this thing so dialed in. I'm like, well, watch this guy over 60 feet to the right over here. Just cast right over there. Look at your bait. And here it go. He's coming up for it. He's on. And
Yeah.
I love that. And I always feel like the day I stop learning is the day I stop living. If you
Yeah.
really want to know who you are, when you stop learning, you will literally shut your facilities down. You're telling your body we don't need to do anything else. And I think
Right.
that's a compromise. I always want to be getting the next version of me, 2.0, 3.0, version
Right.
15. I'm in version
Just keep it
50
going.
something. Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah, I want to talk about the Amazon trip because that is that is probably definitely in my bucket list of trips to do. Um, I've gone to, or we've gone down to the Everglades and we've caught peacocks, but we've caught like the biggest peacock we caught was right at 6 pounds, a little over 6 pounds, and which down in the Everglades, that's a
That's big.
good sized peacock,
That's a monster.
and uh, but I would love to get one that hits 20 pounds because I know just just the fight that happens, and I can imagine. I mean, it's bred into them to fight like that, so I can imagine that if a 4 or 5 pound peacock fights the way that they do down in the Everglades, being in something that has more animals that could eat them or that would want to, that they're just going to be crazy. And people don't, when I tell them, like, when you go, like, go to the Everglades, go, and all you really need is this, like, what is it, the 80 of the whopper plopper, the smallest whopper plopper that they have, and just throw it and just go along the grass lines and stuff like that. And I was like, and I was like, it when they hit it, it sounds like somebody's taking a cinder block and just boom throwing it down into the water because it's so vicious.
It really does sound like somebody threw a car behind you. It was the
Right.
most incredible fishing I have ever done. I've done a lot of fishing all over the world, and I tell you what, catching those peacock bass are something special. And then the thing is we went with a boat called the Legend, and we were in the middle of the Amazon. We stayed there the whole 9 yards. The food was amazing. We get up at 5 in the morning, have breakfast, take off, and come back at about 6 at night, and it was just straight casting. I mean, constantly. Second, third day, I had my fingers taped up. I had blisters here, blisters there. And then I had to make sure my drag was right because I thought maybe I would just bring a reel with some pretty heavy duty drag. And there's some reels out there that's got like 18, 19 pounds of drag. So let me just try that. There's no drag that's going to hold that monster. No. I mean to tell you, and I was catching just about everything on. I like top water, and it
Oh yeah.
takes some work, and it is you got to have a vicious tug to where you almost torque your whole core. I have never worked
Right.
it so hard every single cast, but that's how you get bit. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, the more vicious you make that bait work on top, the more vicious that bite is, and it is unbelievable. It's
Man.
just, if you do anything else in your life, do that. And I kind of took it a step further. So I had some guys I met out there. They like, I seen your show. He spoke Portuguese, but he spoke enough English where I could understand him. So he started doing some film. He's like, I want to go. So he followed us all day. Next thing you know,
Awesome.
I'm in chest high water walking through the Amazon, knowing that there's caiman running around and jaguars
Mm-hmm.
running around, monkeys, and I'm compromised. And I got water up to here. What am I doing? But let me tell you, it was well worth it. Oh my, every day was a new experience, but there's just
Heck
so
yeah.
many big fish there. It's unreal.
Yeah.
And
And what I mean, and looking like you see a peacock from the Everglades and see a peacock from the Amazon, like they look like the same fish to a
Hmm.
certain extent, but like the Amazon has like it's more of like a golden silvery kind of belly instead of where like on at the Everglades it's more of that dark yellow to orange type. And I just to me I'll scroll through your pictures and stuff because I really do enjoy watching and following what you do on social media, and every time I
Like,
get to those peacocks, I just stop and I just enlarge them and just look at them because they are just such a beautiful fish. And then the fight that you have with them, to me, I tell people, I said, for I've caught no telling how many fish and how many big fish and different species. I said, but freshwater fish, uh, there's no comparison. I mean, to where fight pound for pound, there's not a fish that's going to compare to the fight that you're going to receive after catching one of them things. And uh, but with that being said, I also do want to talk about you. You went and caught some pretty big reds too. I think it was down in Tampa. Was it? Was that where you had
I've
caught?
caught some big reds down in Tampa, but some of my bigger reds come from, Louisiana, and of
Okay.
course in Texas. They're
Right.
the big red fish. There's nothing like that fight, man. I tell you what, man, people like catching snook around here. We got some big snook, and I like catching trout on artificial. But it's something special about that classic redfish. We call it Mr. Maroon because it got that little maroon hue to it. Might have a dot here, there with a little
Right.
bit of that bluish hue on the tail. Man, that's a beautiful species of fish, and it's well. I mean, when you catch a redfish in Tampa Bay, you really fished well because we got a lot of competition. It's pretty high. It's high pressure, and we
Right.
don't have the sizes of the Texas or Louisiana. It is a lot of pressure on the Tampa Bay redfish, and then with all the natural disasters that happen with the red tide, and then hurricanes and
Yeah.
all sorts of things that really may impact the fish. They still find a way to thrive, and we still find a way to catch them. I don't
Yeah.
keep. It's rare that I'll keep me a redfish because I feel like that there's just not a lot here,
Right.
not as much as it could be. So I want them to thrive, so my kids
Right.
can enjoy.
Yeah. And see, like this past summer, Michelle and I, we have a goal that we want to hit every Major League Baseball park. And so last summer, we went to St. Louis and went to Busch Stadium, and which being right here in Chattanooga, we're only an hour and a half from Atlanta. So we go to Atlanta a couple times a year. But this past summer, we drove down to Miami, and she's never been down there. And so we went to a ball game, and I told her, I was like, going to a ball game. It's indoors. I said both of these, Miami and Tampa, is both indoors. It's not really going to feel like a ball game because you're
Yeah.
inside. And but it was July in Miami and down in South Florida, so you know how it is down
Oh,
there.
oh,
But we were inside and it said 72 degrees, and she says every ball field, every ball field needs to be like this. But
I agree. I agree.
we went we went from Miami to Lake Placid and stayed a couple days with Dennis Crenshaw, and
Hmm.
then we went from Lake Placid to Tampa, and we spent probably 4 days in Tampa, and we actually stayed. We got a condo actually in Tampa in the Bay Area, and so and it had a fishing pier, private fishing pier and stuff, and which Michelle, she could care less about fishing. But
Right.
she always, I mean, she's always encouraging about me going and just trying different things with it and doing my thing. And her thing is like when we go on vacation, is we can go to the prettiest beach, Ronnie. She wants to go to the pool, and that's what she cares about. And so, um, I let her go to the pool. I brought fishing rods because I knew that we were going down to Miami, that we was going to Lake Placid, and I'm like, I'm going to find some fish. And so I went down there, and
Lake Placid's got
I
them.
was Lake Placid does, and but I got onto some snook in Tampa Bay, and all I was throwing was like a 3.5 inch swim bait, and that's all that I was throwing, and it was right at sunset,
Yes,
and the
sir.
water was just choppy coming from St. Pete, just coming across, and all I was doing, and it was dark enough to where like you could kind of still see like the bait moving a little bit, but it really wasn't as defined as if it was just straight up daylight. And so I throw out towards that bait, and then coming from, I mean, just bringing it through there and having it come a different direction. Just next thing, wham! And
Mm.
I tell you, I fell in love with catching some snook. And to be honest with you, though, I didn't know because I've never caught. That was the first snook that I've ever caught, and until I actually got it up close to me, I was like, "How in the world am I going to get this thing off?" Because I had left my pliers in the
Oh,
car, and
oh.
and so uh, I was like, "All right, does these things have teeth?" I was because I had it and I seen it, and then so I just kind of let it take some slack to kind of get it away from the pier that I was on. And so I
Mm.
was Googling while I was fishing, Ronnie. I was Googling, does snook have teeth? And so,
Yeah,
um, but I haven't ever told anybody that. But yeah, that was,
Probably shouldn't
uh,
that's
have.
funny.
no, I mean, but
Yeah,
you got a Tennessee guy that's never, that's like with fishing with alligators coming down
yeah,
there, and you have
yeah.
a 9-10 footer come right up along the boat. This Tennessee boy is not feeling comfortable at all.
I get it. I get it.
And
I
so,
get it.
yeah. So,
We got them
Norman,
all. Snook,
uh,
gator. Yeah, we do it all here.
and the crazy thing about it, Norman and I went to the Glades, and Norman, he was trying to get his spook up underneath these limbs. Well, he hit just out in front of where the limbs, so where he's trying to skip it up underneath, and it hit and it just bounced up and went and got up stuck in the trees. And so I was on the trolling motor and I just went over there to it, and I was just up here. I mean, if it's back up in there, you just go take the boat up in there. And
Sure.
and Norman's like, I've got braid on this thing. You don't have to get me in this, he
There
says,
you go.
because he said there's pythons in here that's as long as this boat, and he said you may want to get me out of here.
Yes, sir. That's right. No, I'm telling you right.
So I'm like, again, the Tennessee guy. I mean, I'll get your bait. I mean, we may not
Yeah.
come back with all of our fingers, but we're, we're, we're gonna get it. So, what is what has been one of your, maybe like your favorite or more memorable fishing experience that you have had? Because you've gone all over the world fishing. You've caught many different species. So what trip that you have done is, and it don't even have to be related. It could just be even just going out with your family or something like that. But what trip, when somebody says, what do you think of when you think about fishing, a fishing trip? What trip is that with you, Ronnie?
Well, I got to tell you, one of my favorites, of course, is the Amazon because it had so many elements. I had a chance to be around the locals, and everything. People don't realize how big the Amazon River is. That is the
Right.
largest river in the world. I mean, it's just massive. And so there's no roads. There's nothing. We had to fly in on a plane and land in the water, and a float plane, and not everybody's comfortable with that. But the locals, spending time with the locals, they live literally off the land. The river is their transportation, their health, everything is the river. They build boats. And so that was an incredible experience for me to help appreciate the small things that are so incredible.
Right.
And watching the kids assimilate, playing in the river, everything is the river. But when you talk about, and that was like the one that had the most layers, but when I, every day, and if I get some time, bass fishing is my thing, and I don't want them to take my bass card, but I like doing some offshore saltwater fishing. Man, if the further the better. I mean, if I have to use some electric, I'm gonna run out and catch some big mangrove snapper. I love them,
Yeah.
and when
Oh yeah.
even when the red snapper are not in season, I'll pull on a few of those because I just like to tug. Because red snapper will eat anything. Now, then you got to leave them
Right.
because it'll just bother you and you won't be able to catch nothing else. But I love catching, fish offshore using your electronics. It's the same as like, I guess that's the advantage of having the Bass World DNA is you can
Right.
go anywhere with any electronics and feel comfortable that you know how to find fish. You know what they look like. You know how they relate to structure, and that's the fun part about offshore structure fishing. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And I enjoy going deep sea fishing myself. And I think the funnest trip that I had deep sea fishing, well, I'll tell you two little stories real quick. Is I like getting onto some jacks, some amber jacks.
Oh yeah.
And to me, those are, that was probably, and I think the first time I ever caught one, I may have been 13, 12, 13 years old. And I'm like, this sucker is massive. We're pulling them out of, I mean, I think like 150, 200 foot of water. And had to go out 50 miles because we went out of Charleston, South Carolina, just to get to the Gulf Stream.
Mm-hmm.
And, but by the time we got out there, it was just my dad and I out there fishing because it went out on like one of the big charter boats, and everybody was inside because they were sick, and my dad and I are the only two out there fishing, and so we had like 4 of the deckhands for both of us a piece, and they were just like,
Wow.
and they're like, well, I mean, you can do whatever you want. You want to fish up front, you want to fish in the back. He says everybody's inside just getting sick, and they're like, where have y'all been on it? My dad's he's been on deep sea fishing trips and stuff, but my brother served 24 years in the Navy,
Oh yeah.
and he told me before we went out, he was like, best advice I can give you is do not look at the water right at the boat. He said, just watch the horizon.
Yeah.
He said, you'll be all right. Take some Dramamine, you'll be okay. And so, but we had dolphins and stuff as we were going out. And so people were just watching. And then you had like the little flying fish coming through the waves. And next thing you know, I mean, they were dropping like flies, Ronnie. And so we were the only two fishing. And so, but we got on some pretty good amberjacks there.
Oh, that's
And,
amazing.
and so, but then we done another trip that we were trying to go catch some big red snappers off this. There's a sunken ship, and so we were fishing probably, I think it was like 80 foot of water where we were at, and it was out of Destin, and so you could see quite a bit down there, probably 45, 50 feet, and so you start seeing the red come up. And this
Yeah.
was the last. They'd already said this is the last cast and everything. And I start seeing this snapper come up, and I'm like, I got a good one. Next thing I know, I just see like something just come and just whoop, and the red was gone. And we got pulled for an hour and 40 minutes, and it
Oh,
drug us over a mile and a half. And I was like, I knew that it was some kind of shark. I didn't know what kind of shark it
uh-huh.
was.
Yep.
And so the deckhand, he was like, yeah, and because one of the guys that went with me, he says, I just want to catch a shark. I just want to be able to see what it fights like. And so after about 30 minutes of just kind of just keeping pressure on the shark, and it was just pulling us. Um, and I asked I asked my buddy, I said, here's a shark. You can have fun, do all you want. We swapped out, Ronnie. Uh, there was three of us that was on there. We swapped out twice, and then the deckhand finally got it, and we got it up, and it was a big old bull shark that went about 300 pounds, and
Wow.
they and so and I asked the captain as we were fighting it, and it was pulling us away, and I said, "Hey, do you think this shark knows that it's pulling this boat?" And he's like, "Nah."
No
And
clue.
so and then when the deckhand got it, we actually got it probably within maybe 20, 25 feet of the boat, and we were able to see it pretty decent.
Mm.
And um, but once it seen it, it got up, and we kind of tilted to where like side of his face got up out of the water, and then it just went whoop. And then he says, now he knows.
Yeah.
so so the
It
guy in the
definitely
deck
did.
Yeah, the deckhand was mad because he was having to go. He was trying to save the leader on it. He said, "Them leaders are
Oh,
so expensive." He's like,
yeah,
"I need
yeah,
to get that leader back."
yeah.
But when it
Not a
it took
chance.
off, it was gone.
Oh
so,
my goodness, that's fun fishing, man. Especially that
oh yeah,
amberjack fighting fish in the ocean,
I,
pound for
and
pound.
I think have you ever caught a marlin?
Yeah, not a big one, but caught one. Caught sailfish. That's some
Yeah,
other big species of fish. Holy cow,
yeah,
fun.
and them sailfish though. I mean, you can have them within 100 yards, and then the next thing you know, they're 300 yards away from you in a
Yeah,
split second. And
exactly.
I couldn't believe, and I've never caught one, but I've seen videos of just how quick they were. And there's actually a video on YouTube of a dude catching one uh, out of a kayak, and
Mm.
took him 7 hours to get that thing tired enough to where um, and they actually had another fishing charter boat that they were having to that was tracking him, had to stop what they were doing because he had this marlin on in a kayak. I was like,
Wow,
you're crazy.
wow,
so
wow. That's a
yeah,
fight. Yeah, he
yeah.
slept good that night. There's no doubt.
Oh, I guarantee it. I guarantee it. So, uh,
Yeah, that's
but
funny.
out of all the fish that you caught, what is your favorite fish to catch?
That one's tricky. My new favorite fish is that uh, I got to tell you, man, that peacock bass. That was a hard one. That
Yeah.
that just messed me up. I not plan on going back. It messed me up because the top water literally it'll make you stop fishing if you got your back turned and you hear your partner on the other side catch a fish and you hear that splash if you're using top water. You're
uh,
going, oh my God, somebody threw a brick or a truck in. It's just a big
uh,
splash. And
it
even
is.
water dips so deep because it's such a turn of, they got so much
Right.
force. It's amazing. I'm blown away. That's an
Uh,
unbelievable fish. That's my new favorite fish. Hopefully the bass folks won't come after me and take my bass card because it's still a peacock bass, but I love
yep.
that thing is. It's a monster.
It's a beast in its own.
Yeah, man. It's nothing like it. Just
Yeah.
nothing.
So I do want to give you the opportunity because um, you would not be able to do as much as what you do if it wasn't for your sponsors. And so, because we know that they help out a lot. Now, is and so is what is like who is the sponsors that help with the TV show?
So we have several sponsors, of which it would be, of course, Bass Pro Shops, where your adventure starts, of course, and then you got Mercury Marine, and you got to go boldly, baby. Power Pole. Power Pole is one of the most underrated sponsors I have because they do so much and kind of considered the quiet storm. You ever seen a storm show up out of nowhere? The skies are clear, and then all of a sudden it's just like, whoa, where did that come from? Well, that's what Power Pole is because you got the battery charger, then you got the power poles, and then you got the power pole move. Let me tell you.
And that's
Just like
something
Peacock
else.
Bash, you got to experience that power pole move, baby. It
Yeah.
is the truth. So that one, and of course, A Game, Maui Gym, and there's several destinations and whatnot. But we have a lot. And if I miss some, you guys forgive me. And charge it to my head, not to my heart, because I'm getting a little bit older there, but at the end of the day, that's what drives the show. And of course, the biggest sponsors, emotional support is my wife, and then the audience. You guys keep the show on because you obviously like what's being said and what's being done, and some of the shows. We've got a great lineup coming up this year. We had George Clinton. We got Leonard Skinner coming. We've got Bruce Hall from Mario Speedwagon. We've got a lot of military guys that I've known for many years. Secret Service
Heck yeah.
for our incoming president. We've got Secret Service, who's been in some circles, and we served in the Marine Corps together 30 years. I mean, I've known him for 30 years. I mean, just so many incredible stories of people and their life's journey, man. What I love about listening to people's life journey is we all have issues, but they find a way to overcome. That's
Right.
the take home message. The human spirit is just so amazing how it finds a way to win in some of the most traumatic issues that may occur in their life. People find a way, and whatever their religious perspective, or even if they don't have a religious perspective, it's just that human spirit.
Yeah.
It's just so
Right.
powerful.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I really like about your show is because you have a wide variety of guests that comes on. And for some people, like coming onto the show, that can kind of be intimidating.
Yeah.
And and some of your guests, like I have seen to where like they're kind of little standoffish a little bit at first, but by the time I mean you get halfway through the episode, I mean it's like y'all known each other for 20 years, and just how you're able to kind of break that barrier and kind of and bring them into your world and communicate with them and the stories that's being told during the episode, because you've got a story of going out there catching a fish, but you've also got a story of you talking to the guests that you have on, and it's just you've got a story inside of a story when you're with your show, and I think to me that is that I really enjoy that, because it's not just, well, I'm going out here, I'm going to show that I'm catching 25, 30 fish, and but we didn't catch nothing that's a pound. We don't ever catch a pounder. And so but you show that you're going out there catching a fish, or multiple fish, and but then you also show the like just the communication in between, and that's when I started my YouTube channel. that's how I wanted to reflect it, was because I want, like, if you was to come on my boat or I go on a boat with you, I wanted people to see we may never have even fished before, but there's something about being on that water and that boat with each other, and the camaraderie that happens and I tell you, if we go bass fishing and you catch a 8-10 pounder, I'm probably going to be just as excited as you, if not more, Ronnie. I mean, that's just how it is. That's and how your TV flows, the episode flows. It just flows smoothly, and you can kind of see that transition of where some of them have kind of been a little standoffish, but then you have broken that barrier with them, and they're right on in there, and y'all, the storyline is just phenomenal. And I want to say that I really enjoy watching your show, and I've learned so much
Thank you.
with your episodes, or just the show in general. And it really has helped me with the podcast to be able to kind of, I've taken some pointers of, because I'm always constantly learning. There's always another way that you can do and approach
Absolutely.
somebody with trying to have a conversation, to where, because I've noticed that you've broken down the barriers of, again, because somebody that does not fish and getting out on the boat and then having them gators right beside you, that is, I mean, I'm nervous with them. But then by the time that episode progresses, you can see that that barrier has broken. Then the communication and y'all just talking, I just really love it, and I've tried to take some of that to put onto the podcast, and I think that's one reason why the podcast has done as well as what it has, is because during, we're almost 3 years into it. I think the conversation has been able to go a lot smoother, because I've kind of taken some pointers of with the fishing story with Ronnie Green. So,
Oh man, thank. Well, I tell you
but
what, fishing is the great equalizer. I
it
tell you,
is.
no matter where you come from. I mean, we fish from people all over the world. Literally, had a lady who was blind fish with us and couldn't see necessarily the fish, but it's something about the water, and fishing is the great equalizer, like you said,
Yeah,
and that you have a great observation, Colin. You nailed it. People may start off and have a real shallow understanding of
yeah,
fishing. They fish a little bit, but it's something about when you get out on the water that fishing, it almost like takes out the venom.
marinates it. Yeah,
Yeah, it takes out the venom, and people are at ease, man. And before you know it, they realize, man, I should have been doing this consistently all along, or I have been doing
yeah,
it. I need to get back into it. Whatever the case may be, it's something
right,
special about fishing. We're just so fortunate to be living and living in this particular industry, doing what we're doing.
right. And so we don't want to hold you too much longer, because I know you're at was able to get you, and you're still at the studio. So we know that you want to get back to the family, and but Ronnie,
Mhm.
man, we appreciate it. I'm looking forward to here in March, because I know that I'm going to see you in Fort Worth, and hopefully we can go grab a bite to eat or something while we're out there,
Oh yeah.
and because I know that you may know some few good places to go eat out that way. So
Yes,
I'm
sir.
gonna be I'm gonna be tagging along and be like, I know him.
Yeah. Well,
But
I love some good food, man. I'm all in.
that's it, brother. And but guys, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Ronnie, thank you again. And
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Norman says thanks, and
Oh
we
man.
so we can't wait to see you here in March at the
Absolutely.
Classic, and then we'll get to see you in July at ICAST. So
Yes,
I'm
sir.
excited. But Ronnie, thank you for coming on, and guys, thank you for watching. And go follow Ronnie. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and start following and seeing all the adventures that he goes on. And because you will be surprised at some of these fish that he's posting about and videos. And if you have not seen A Fishing Story with Ronnie Green, shame on you. You should be watching it, and because it is one heck of a show. And we will see you out on the water, guys, and have a blessed day.
Thanks, and live the passion.